Welcome to the season premiere of the All Four Downs podcast. I am Joe Aguirre. Coming up, we're going to preview the upcoming college football season. Ovi Muniz will join us and, of course, give us his top 25. We'll discuss the college football playoffs, realignment, and the end of the Pac-10. Of course, Ovi will also, now that he's a jet setter, recent excursion out to California, he'll give you some of his sports betting. Ovi's doing pretty well when it comes to bets. And Ovi, a lot to discuss here on today's show. Man, so much going on. Great season coming up. And it's, of course, not without controversy.
No, none at all. But, this off season, I'm going to tell you this. This offseason in college football has probably been the busiest than any other season that I've covered. And most is not only just the transfer portals, but this realignment. Unbelievable. How bad is the Pac-12 leadership? I don't get it. We talked about so much about money. It's always about money, and whether we're talking about rankings, whether we're talking about like how they're picking up the players, stuff like that. But man, $1 billion industry, and yet one conference can't get it right. I don't know.
Well, look, the SEC has done such an amazing job of absolutely dominating both talent-wise on the football field and just in, I was just watching an interview earlier with Ed Sharkey, who, I mean, I don't know what his deal with the devil is, but he's only concerned about those 16 teams, and that's it. And he's now, and it's become a dog-eat-dog world. And, we talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
I said, the NCAA was like giving up its power to the Power Five, nonsense like this. Where did you think this was going? And the problem when it comes to realignment, look, football is the big money programs at most of these schools, particularly in the SEC. But in most of the schools around the country, but there's a lot of kids who go to certain universities so that their parents can watch them play baseball, softball, soccer. And now that these schools are realigning, you're putting your fans in a situation where they've either going to have to miss games or travel halfway around the country, which was what they were attempting to avoid in the first place.
Well, talking about traveling around the country, the Big Ten is going to do some traveling, but we're going to get there in our next down. But first, let's talk about the college football rankings. And we're going to start it off with first down. Usually it's always to the end of the show, but this is preseason. And right now, I mean, it's kind of tough. And I'm trying to reestablish. I know the ESPN college polls came out.
Yeah.
And I still feel like this is all politics. Who they're rooting for. They're probably going to say USC and Georgia is going to go to the championship or something like that. Well, I'm going to tell you that based on the end of the season, based on the players that they got and the transfer portal and the new coaching hirings, I got to put everything in perspective here, okay? So here we go. I'm going to start from 21 to 25. I got Washington, Ole Miss, TCU, South Carolina, and Wisconsin. TCU, I think, had a Cinderella year, and I don't think it's going to repeat. Half their starters are gone, and the people that are moving up, well, they got to show more, okay? And besides, everybody's different when it comes to the Pac-12. Again, the last ones to repeatedly be champions was Oklahoma, but I just don't see TCU doing that great this year. I did mention South Carolina. If they could improve and get by Georgia, they're going to climb these rankings. And Wisconsin has a new coach who came from the University of Cincinnati. Let's see how he does for that team. Florida State, Miami, Auburn, North Carolina, and Colorado. Florida State, they're just saying that they're the favorites in the ACC, neck to neck with Clemson. Not so fast, man, because Florida State had 3 losses last year, right? There's not a season where they have finished undefeated for a very long time. So not going to get my hopes up. Not getting my hopes up with Miami or Auburn. North Carolina could be a big surprise for everybody. Okay. They tried to do
may or may not.
Absolutely. They got a high quality Heisman hopeful in North Carolina. And Colorado ranked number 20. That roster's changed so much. I want to see if Deion Sanders could back it up. I want to see that tough love and see them persevere in the Pac-12.
I don't like Colorado in the top 25. And I will say I think Deion Sanders will figure it out. But I think, when you look at the overhaul of a roster like that, new coach, new everything, it's going to be hard for them to achieve instant success.
That's exactly what they said when he went to, Jackson State University? And yet they were spectacular, so I feel you, but the coaches are a bunch of veterans. People are trustworthy for Deion. Let's see, man. Let's see. I'm gambling with Colorado, but we shall see. Moving on to 11 through 15, I got Tennessee, Oklahoma, USC, Penn State, and Florida. Penn State, they might flirt around to the top 10, but they just don't have enough to get by Ohio State or Michigan. They're always that mid-ranking top team they can't surpass and make it to the playoffs. Florida Gators, again, they have their new coach. I think it's his second year there, but I still don't think they got enough with Georgia. Let them know. I don't think that they could surpass South Carolina this year. I'm just saying. Oklahoma ranked 12th. Every year they want to move Oklahoma all the way to the top. You see how disaster their season was last year. I expect the same this year. I really
Interesting
do.
That they'd be a spot ahead of USC.
Yeah, well, and there's another thing. USC's in the top 10 on everybody else's, but USC doesn't have defense. And Lincoln Riley never had a team with defense. The whole entire time he was with Oklahoma, they scored so many points. Yet they won that conference because the rest of the team were the same.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I think when you think about just the great running shoot teams of all time that didn't have defenses, that put up big numbers on offense, scored a lot of points, it's those shootouts.
6 through 10, I got Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and Clemson. I like it, Oregon. I think they're gonna do awesome. I think it's neck to neck between Oregon, Utah, and USC. But I think Oregon has an advantage because they have a solid defense. And this is the last year of Bo Nix as a quarterback. And he's there to make a statement that he is a high caliber future NFL star. Not so great with Auburn, but with Oregon, he's able to come out that shell and represent.
I think he's going to have a hard time adjusting to life in the NFL because of his I think he's a very selfish player. I think he's all about Bo Nix, and he's interested in what's going to benefit him. And I don't know. I just don't feel like that doesn't feel like first round quality.
Oh, I'm not saying first round, but I definitely.
I'm saying, yeah. I mean, maybe, but if you're not a first round pick, your chances of starting are slim and none. And
we got ways for that, man. We got ways for
that. I think Bo Nix would have to do something very special to really get on people's radar at the next level.
Make it to the playoffs. Take Oregon to the playoffs. I picked them to win the Pac-12, so we'll see. Yeah. Here's my 1 through 5. Now, of course, you got stacked SEC on top. Well, let's check this out. They're going to play each other, just like Ohio State, Michigan going to play with each other.
Yeah.
But this is the order out of respect for Georgia, two-time back-to-back champions, trying to go for number 3. The biggest question is who is going to be the starting quarterback. Number 2, LSU already defeated Alabama last year. Their starters are back. Everyone's back. I expect them to win at Alabama. So I do see a rematch of LSU and Georgia, but I'm going to see a better LSU this year. Alabama is always contenders like always, but they have a whole entire new staff. They have a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator. And what does Nick Saban have left? Okay. There's a lot of the assistant head coaches, like all they do is analyze and stuff like that. Whatever they do in that organization, they're going to be competitive, but they too are looking for a starting quarterback. I think they do have one, but Nick Saban has not stated who is actually going to be the starting quarterback.
I mean, am I wrong that every single one of these teams is going to have a new starting quarterback?
Except for LSU and Michigan. Michigan, was his Patterson? He's coming back. And then Corum, the running back who was injured in the middle of the season, he was a Heisman hopeful. He is healthy. He is coming back. So that run game is there. The only other question is, especially for Michigan, is John Harbaugh. Is he going to coach the first 3 games? Is that going to be official suspension that's going on with this investigation? So more to follow on that. But right now, what it looks like is Georgia, LSU, Alabama, Ohio State, and Michigan in my top 5. Now it's time for second down, and here we go. The Pac-12. The Pac-12, let's put it this way. The domino effects has happened, and the domino effect started with the Big 12, with Texas and Oklahoma moving to the SEC for next year. Now, those were the first 2 schools to make that announcement. All of a sudden, all these other schools are searching to try to get away, and more of that is the Pac-12. Now, the history about the Pac-12 is this. There was this guy named, I don't want to kill his name real quick, but I think it was Scott, right? Larry Scott. He was the commissioner back in the days when it was the Pacific 10, like you mentioned in your introduction. When they acquired Colorado and Utah, they became the Pac-12, and they were earning $3 billion, okay? They had a contract with ESPN, Fox Sports, and they created their own network. Now, because of the overspending and everything else, he got relieved, pretty much got fired, even though he resigned and stuff like that. They got a new commissioner, and things are just not flowing. They try to get rights. Well, first of all, they didn't get the TV deal on time. They're still trying to get one. And then at the same time, I mean, they're trying to coordinate with Apple. And so the money is always about the money, what they're going to get. They don't trust the Pac-12 leadership. And that's why we have these schools leaving. And as you see this picture, the background with one dude standing alone in a room with empty furniture and stuff like that, considering it was the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith saying goodbye to his final episode. That's what the Pac-12 is going to do this year. They're going to bury themselves at the end of the season.
Well, this really works out because they've always kind of been a pain in the butt. Nobody likes the late games. Nobody
Unless
really
it was
wants
back
to.
in the era when USC was winning.
It was essentially over when USC and UCLA said they were leaving, because that's like if Bama and Georgia said they were leaving the SEC. Well, the SEC is essentially over. You know, it happened in the Big East with college basketball, right?
Absolutely.
That's how a conference goes to die. When you lose the main components, there you go. When you lose the main components like that, it's over. And it's funny because, look, and I'll get into this in my final whistle, but this idea of rivalry and tradition and blobbity, blobbity, bloopity, blop. Stop it. We do know what it's all about. It's about one thing, and it's a shame. But you know what? Everybody loves, when the occasional rivalry game, now some of these realignments, when they do get to happen, people really enjoy it, and they're reminded of the fact that the economics of the game. And it's amazing, Ovi, because there's so much money to go around.
Right.
And look, the idea of revenue sharing and like a socialistic economic situation where that's like the worst thing in the world to think of. But if all the schools were working with equal resources, wouldn't that be much more entertaining for everybody? If every school had the resources, look, here's the big thing, right? You look at Georgia every year, right? Georgia puts what, 12, 14 guys in the NFL, 6 or 7 guys go in the first round, and people are like, wow, that's incredible. And you and I, we've talked about this extensively on this show.
Mm-hmm.
The 4 and 5-star recruits are all going to Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, USC. 40% of all these kids, that's the schools that they go to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's become. And so, yeah, of course, these schools are churning out all the professionals. That's where all the talent is. And so the other thing, and we see this week after week in the regular season, right? Auburn wins a game and they're ranked 25th because guess what? They're playing Bama this week, and we want Bama to beat a ranked team.
It's all about the
You
resume.
we can always justify putting an SEC team in the top 25 over an undefeated Coastal Carolina, USA or whoever, right? Any school, whoever it is. Yeah, the competition's not the same. I know Auburn's 8-3, but come on.
Yeah.
It's
I
been
feel you.
weighted
I really
that
do.
way for a really long time as the resume builder to prove that the best teams, and then you get to the bowl games. And then I don't know. Things tend to even out a little bit there. And
And I
suddenly
understand. I'm glad you said the bowl games, because we're going to be talking about that, which is my follow-on question after we look at the map between the Big Ten and the Big 12. But you're absolutely right. It's all about the resume. It's all about like, oh, they're going to play this person next. Here we go. But I think, and I'm really, really worried about it, because the rankings are going to be is going to be the hot topic in 2024 because of the stacked teams. And do they have enough to play all those games? Now, they're scheduled for 12 regular season games, right? And if you made it to the top 2 or top of your division, you're guaranteed one more game for the conference championship. But is that enough? Okay. And I'll lead on to about the playoff scenario later, but I want you to look at this real quick so the fans, understand. We're talking about going from East Coast to West Coast and stuff like that. That's what's happening with the Big Ten. That's the map. You have
I'm
4
excited
teams
about
on the
that.
West Coast.
I'm excited about that
Mhm.
Rutgers UCLA rivalry really starting to heat up.
Yeah, but I mean, it's good that UCLA and USC are there. I think that rivalry is going to skyrocket, and Washington, Oregon for the Big Ten. But as always, it's going to be that trio between Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. But they're always going to be talking about Ohio State, Michigan, and the fact that I'm just curious to see maybe 5 years from now is who's going to be the most dominant team in the Big Ten.
It's funny, as I look at that map real quick,
Mm-hmm.
all I can read is from Michigan, the M, to Oregon, the O, Rutgers, Ohio State, Nebraska. Moron.
Oh, of course you would do that.
That's
Of
what I
course.
read. I'm sorry.
I'll let the listeners and the viewers figure that one out.
Jumping
Go
out
ahead and
at me.
rewind
You
it and
up
do
for
it
me.
again.
It's jumping out at me.
The Big 12. All right, that's how they're looking right now. They have 16 teams, and that's what I'm saying. You got 60 teams, but you're only playing 12 regular games. And of those 12, you might pay 2 or 3 teams outside your conference. So you're not going to have enough to play against everybody. And so my next question for you is, and is leading into third down. All right, this is what's looked like in the college football playoffs for the 24-25 season. Okay, already there. However, will this make sense? Like, do we see a 14 or a 12-team playoffs? That's what I want to know. Do we see it? Do you see it? Which one do you prefer now with this realignment? Do you want the
Listen,
14 or the 12 team?
I think the more the merrier. And listen, I think TCU proved last year, and other teams have proven in the past that it doesn't matter who gets blown out in the championship game. Right? Does it matter if TCU gets lit by 50 or if it's Notre Dame? I'd rather see TCU, to be honest. It was much more fun.
They
And
had
I think most
they had
I
a
think
valuable
most
quarterback to make it fun.
yeah, I think most fans would agree with that. I think 12 teams. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Let's be honest. In the scenario you have here set up, right? Kansas State is only playing one game. Tennessee is only playing, at best, 2 games. Down to the bottom, I don't know if that's necessarily the right layout there, but you got TCU and Tulane.
Oh, yeah, it's just an example. Like,
Right, so let's say
right.
TCU wins that game. TCU beats Utah, TCU loses to Georgia. So they're only playing 2 extra games. I don't see a scenario where, I mean, maybe Ohio State beats Penn State, beats Clemson, beats Michigan, plays for the national championship. So Ohio State would get a third game. No, I don't think anyone else conceivably could win 3. Maybe Bama in that scenario, but even that would be tough.
Absolutely.
So my point is, I don't think it's adding that much extra to the grand scheme of things. I think putting more teams in is better for college football. It
So
worked for basketball.
it's better for bowl games, right? So now people
Of
could be
course.
amped up to play for the playoffs. I understand.
Well,
I
you could
got
also use the bowl games, right? They'll be meaningful games. The games will mean something. You could play these games in the bowls. That would be so much better, and
you.
the games would be relevant and important, and people would watch those. You would watch the Liberty Bowl if it was a qualifier, right? If the Tennessee Kansas State game, if that was the Liberty Bowl, you would make plans to watch the Liberty Bowl.
I looked at it this way. I said, if you're realignment and there's no more Power 5, there's only Power 4, then you got your top 4 teams right there, each conference going after each other. But your scenario and your example makes more sense. So we'll just leave it at 12 teams when the time comes. I like it. Duly noted.
Look, either one works. I mean, if you want to just get down to the nitty-gritty,
No,
if you want
but
to play no, but listen, if you wanted to play a longer regular season or you wanted, you right, and then do a conference championship, right? Because you're gonna have to split these monster conferences into 2 divisions. You have to, right? They're all huge.
well, let's hope so. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the Big 10 is at 18 and could be at 20. That's like having 2 Big 10s. You could have Big 10A and Big 10B, right? But again, you're going to have conference championships. So you're adding that big money game, and you're not just adding a regular season game, you're adding a conference championship game. And that's where, look, that's where the big money is. But again, if you go to the short 4-team playoff, I think you can add more games to the regular season, and you know how important the kid's safety is. It doesn't
Yeah.
factor in at all. So there you
No.
go.
All right. It's time for fourth down here. I love that one. Should have done it to the other ones. College football betting. Now, this here, we're going to talk about who do you think is going to win each conference? We're talking about just the Power Five. So in the Pac-12, odds here from DraftKings that USC is favored to win the conference. I beg to differ. I'll take the plus 300 for Oregon.
Hmm.
It's just USC's defense. Unless they make improvements there, I just don't buy it. I know USC has an explosive offense, and everyone is on the bandwagon with Caleb Williams, but you got to have a total package to win it all. So I'm picking Oregon on this one.
I'm going to take Oregon State with the plus 1,200 in a fairy tale final season in the Pac-12, and is the only one that hasn't been invited to go anywhere else.
There are talks of them moving to the ACC.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They'll take whatever they can get. They're like the last one picked. You'll go wherever.
Right. Okay, so you pick Oregon State. I pick Oregon. That's a great rivalry game. So me and you are going to have to sit down and watch this game together.
Hell yeah, man.
All right, Big 12 championship. They have Texas favorite. I'm going to stick to the Texas Longhorns. I believe that they can make this happen. Final year in the Big 12. They're going to mark themselves there and then move on to SEC.
I'm going to go with Kansas State.
You know what? That was I knew it. I knew it. I was ready for you to say something about TCU. I was gonna cut you off, but
no,
good choice.
No.
Kansas State.
You already pointed out the problems that TCU is facing, but I like the way Kansas played at the latter half of the season. I think there's something to build on there.
They have a healthy quarterback,
a year older, a year wiser, healthy quarterback. I think that would be cool. I'd like to see that happen. Very much.
All right, SEC. You know me. I'm going to pick Georgia. I'm surprised they got Alabama at plus 290 ahead of LSU, but Georgia still got it's the team to beat.
Yeah, I mean look, Georgia obviously has a new situation under center, and so does Bama. That makes me nervous. But Georgia really does rely a lot more on the run game
and on their defense.
Yeah, and obviously the defense is unbelievable. So, yeah, team to beat. I'll stay still Georgia. I'll give you your dogs.
You would have been safer with LSU.
I don't like LSU, and I'm not buying all the hype on LSU. I don't think LSU has done enough to tell me that they've turned things around.
Because of Brian Kelly? You're hating.
I don't know.
Yeah, just the hate rate out of you.
You know how I feel about these career college coaches. Those guys bug me out. He just rubs me the wrong way. He's not like a blonde-haired Dan Mullins.
All right.
I just don't trust those guys. I don't.
Big Ten championship game. Here it is. Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin, and all this goes all the way down. I'm picking Michigan for the Big Ten.
Really?
Their home game is against Ohio State. Home field advantage going for Michigan.
I think this is the year that Penn State finally breaks through. It's been a long time.
Really? Listen,
Ohio State, I just don't. I'm worried. I'm worried. They've lost a lot of talent. I know they still have a lot of talent, but it's asking for a lot. I think Penn State. I like the way Penn State looked last year. Penn State looked like they were legit. I think this year they got a lot to prove, and I think they get it done.
Okay. You Penn State. Wow. Gonna put a parlay on that one. All right. ACC. This is tough for me. I think the top three, Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, it could go either way. I really do. I'm gonna stick with Clemson.
That was predictable.
Yeah. I mean, North Carolina State, they're gonna be here in Connecticut. First game opener.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
Yeah.
And if you got a
UConn,
schedule
they're
like
hot.
that, then you don't got a schedule for the rest of the season like that. I
I'm
don't
going
know.
to say Derek May, North Carolina.
North Carolina.
I think they do it. I think they have a great North Carolina year.
Good. I like it. You look like you want to change your pick. You sure?
No, I feel good about that. Listen. If Jace Garcia was here, you know what he would call your picks? SpongeBob Square picks.
Because his Utah's not on the list.
Yeah.
Listen, I do have Utah on the list, but they're scratching in number 26.
Am I saying all of my picks are going to hit? No. But I think one of those will happen.
Or maybe all will happen. You never know.
You never know.
No. But you know what? I'm going to save your picks. I have my picks. I'll play 2 tickets on DraftKings. Let's see where we go from there.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
you never know.
Do it. Yes. Yes.
Love it.
Well, anyways, hey, that wraps up our show. We're down to the final whistle. And of course, Joe, you can lead it the way.
Well, let me start by saying RIP Pac-10, 12, 4, whatever you are now, with your late start times, and, well, sponsors don't like that. So much for traditions and rivalries. RIP to all the conferences except for the Big 10 and its 18 teams, and the Big 12 and its 16 members. And of course, the SEC, the only one that actually matters. I've been warning you since we started doing this show that they were going to ruin college football, and it has been a death by 1,000 cuts. As long as Alabama and the SEC are doing well, they don't care about any other school. And more specifically, they don't care about the student athletes at those schools. The transfer portal is just a chance for SEC teams to add players they didn't recruit, or where 4-star prospects that don't shine brightly at Alabama can screw off to. And think about how college football handled things during the pandemic. They said it was all about the kids' safety, but we all know the truth. It was actually about the almighty dollar. And that's what this is all about. Getting your hands on that sweet TV money. Who cares about the kids? There's money to be made. Even Deion Sanders wants a piece of the pie. And here's the best part. Despite being legal in today's college football, most NIL deals are still handled through boosters. You know, the same folks who have been paying kids cash under the table since Roger Starbuck was at Notre Dame. That's the only tradition we keep. The legacy of paying kids to come play at the top schools. You keep claiming it's all about the kids, so we have something to laugh at while you destroy the sport. That's it for this week's show. Thank you for watching, and please join us next week for All 4 Downs.